This is the VRIPS application, my dissertation instrument that I wrote for my research. You can see in front of me I have my hands, which can make a variety of clenching motions that we'll be using as part of this. So the chalkboard in front of us is showing a problem description for IPv4 subnetting that has a number of networks that have to be laid out. To the right, we get a whiteboard that shows the relationship between the different locations that need to be subnetted. And to the left, we wind up with an IP cheat sheet that allows the students to have some scratch paper to write things down when they're working their way through the problems. So in front of us, we see a blue and red stick, which is the network stick that represents the network that they start with. So it's part of our problem description on the board, and it has the same numbers on it here that you'll see as we go along. The interesting part here is that we can grab the stick with one hand or two hands and manipulate it, but more importantly, with a squeeze action, we can break it into two pieces. And this allows us to subnet it, breaking it down into smaller network pieces that we can lay out in front of us and see. And as you can see, it got smaller. It went from a 20 to a 21, which indicates it's a smaller section of network address ranges. And this lets us grab it and move it around. To the right, we'll see down here there are 8 rings that correspond with our 8 locations that need to be subnetted. And as we get the subnet small enough, we'll be able to stick them in the rings as we place them through the rings. And we'll be able to grab them and stick them through and do that kind of thing to allow for scoring of them. And this takes us over to the menu on this side. So on one side we can see we have a main menu that shows we're on question 10. We can also see a scoring scoreboard here that tells us how we're doing. Low score is best. So the lower the score, the better it gets. And so far you can see we have a reasonably high score as we go along. We can also submit the network, which will score it and keep track of all our scores. Or we can go back and continue to work on the different problems. By doing it this way, it allows us to lay out the different networks in front of us. The students can see what they're looking at and think about what size networks they might want to work with. There is a minimum size. As the networks get smaller and smaller, you'll see they also become, the sticks themselves become smaller, but there is in fact a minimum size. As you can see, these two are the same size as the 24s. So as we laid them out, they got down to a minimum size that was necessary. But it does give some level of visual indication of how big it is versus other things, so we can see some level of distinction as we go through the solution rings, putting them in.